Oh, well, it's more bad news for rideshare drivers. Whether you're driving for Uber or Lyft, this likely will affect you in one particular market. It is indeed Minneapolis, Minnesota, starting to appear as if it is the little engine that could not. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim with another ride-sharing video. Perhaps we should expand this from the city of Minneapolis to say the bad news is starting to apply to the whole damn state of Minnesota. This comes from an article titled, Uber Lyft promised to leave Minnesota entirely after state ride-hailing compromise. Now, you know, probably by watching videos featured here and many other places that the ride-sharing companies are dealing with the city council suggesting that they have to pay drivers a fair wage if they want to remain in the state. And that is $1.40 per mile to drivers, 51 cents per minute of wait time, minimum $5 per trip. That is what the drivers had won from city council. The mayor tried to veto it. They had a veto-proof majority, but it has all fallen apart since then. Here is the statement released by Lyft. In a statement, Lyft says if the compromise legislation is passed, the company will leave the entire state, not just Minneapolis. And Uber has released a similar statement. So they're saying that when I say compromise legislation, we talked about $1.40 per mile, 51 cents per minute, minimum $5 trip. Uber and Lyft said that was way too fucking high. So the city of Minneapolis, including the state of Minnesota under Governor Tim Walz, all went back to the drawing board. If Uber and Lyft are saying $1.40 is too high and they're threatening to leave the state, threatening to leave the city rather, now they're threatening to leave the whole damn state, but threatening to leave the city, maybe we can kind of finagle the numbers and work in a manner that might be beneficial to both drivers and keep the ride-sharing companies here. Many folks in the game believe it was bullshit and that Uber and Lyft never were going to leave to begin with. But make no mistake about it, Uber and Lyft are changing the hearts and minds of the right people. By the time we're done with this video, you'll understand why I personally believe, and a lot of drivers do too, that both the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, and the mayor of Minneapolis, Governor Frey, or better yet, Mayor Frey, both of them, Uber and Lyft have gotten in their pockets. Some way, somehow, they've been bought off. But here is the gist of what we're talking about. Here's the actual numbers. The state bill will raise ride-hailing driver wages to $1.27 per mile and 49 cents per minute. That's lower than the wages in the Minneapolis ordinance of $1.40 per mile and 51 cents per minute, but below the numbers Uber and Lyft have said they would support. Uber and Lyft is offering 89 cents per mile and 49 cents per minute, which were the rates recommended by a state report. That's a huge difference. Now, the drivers won $1.40 per mile. Uber and Lyft said that's way too fucking high. So they went back to the drawing board and said, okay, $1.40, we'll drop it down to $1.27 per mile. Uber and Lyft is saying we only want to pay 89 cents per mile or we're leaving. That's a big, big gap. $1.40 all the way down to 89 cents per mile. That's got to be what, probably about 40% different. I mean, that is huge. Uber and Lyft are offering to raise the rates up to 89 cents per mile, which leads to the obvious question, what the hell are they making right now? If you're going to give drivers an increase and it ends with them making 89 cents a mile and 49 cents per minute wait time, how low are you paying them right now? What the hell is their current pay? That is not coming up in any of these discussions as to, well, if you're going to give them 89 cents, what are you giving them now? And why the hell are they getting paid that low? If I'm correct, and I'm going to cite these numbers off the top of my head, but if I'm correct, the IRS, if you're driving for a living, the IRS gives you a 63-cent deduction per mile. So even according to the Internal Revenue Service, the expenses on your vehicle, wear, tear, depreciation, oil changes, insurance, you name it, It's costing you 63 cents per mile for every mile you drive. Uber and Lyft only want to give you 89 cents. So they're essentially offering you, 26 cents per mile in profit. And somehow suggesting that that's good pay. That's got to be significantly below the minimum wage. 26 cents per mile in profit. Now, make no mistake about it, there's a hell of a lot of drivers that can operate efficiently for less than the IRS allotted 63 cents per mile. I get it. But that is what they give you, is 63 cents per mile. And if Uber and Lyft is only willing to give you 89 cents per mile, that shows how little you're making. But even if you're able to drive your car effectively for 40 cents per mile, you're still only making 49 cents per mile in profit. This is some really lowballing shit. I'm surprised they're even willing to admit publicly that they're fighting to pay drivers this low. We've talked about transparency before. This shit needs to get out. Not the fight between Uber and Lyft, but what Uber and Lyft is actually offering drivers. This tells the story very clearly. Any driver that has ever suggested they're not making much money to someone that did not want to believe that Uber and Lyft drivers are paid low, this is what they need to hear, that Uber and Lyft are trying to raise driver salaries to 89 cents a mile from whatever the hell it used to be. No doubt they're making peanuts in the city of Minneapolis. There's no way to describe it otherwise. If 89 cents per mile is a raise, and keep in mind, they're offering drivers 89 cents per mile and 49 cents per minute wait time. That minimum $5 per trip, that shit has been taken off the board completely. It sounds like even the other side, in trying to work with Uber and Lyft, has removed that. Minimum $5. That means anytime you go from point A to point B to pick somebody up, the lowest you can make is $5. Sounds like they've removed that from the table completely. And that's a damn shame, because all of us drivers know you can make $2 to $3 for a trip. There are some trips that pay really, really low. And it's not uncommon for Uber or Lyft to dispatch you to some shit that's 5, 10, 15 miles away. And at the end of the trip, you've made $3.30. That happens to every damn driver in the business. So removing the minimum $5 per trip is a real big loss to drivers. But 89 cents, is, in my opinion, is even bigger. Nevertheless, I stated before that earlier in the video that particularly Mayor Fry has been bought and paid for by Uber and Lyft. The reason I say that is because he originally was stating that the pay for drivers is so low, he favored doubling the pay. That was Mayor Fry. He hasn't spoken positively of increasing driver pay for some time now. Somebody got to that mayor and shut him the hell up. He no longer is gung-ho about giving drivers an increase in salary. You don't see him anywhere other than on the side of the table with Uber and Lyft now. Governor Tim Walz was never on the side of drivers. And Uber and Lyft realizes that they're making really good inroads in the state of Minnesota, which is why they're like, we don't have to agree to any of this shit. You guys are afraid we're going to leave, so at the end of the day, we're going to get our way. My guess is the $1.40 that the drivers want is not going to happen. The $1.27 compromise is probably not going to happen. By the time this is all said and done, it's going to be real close, if not spot on, with the 89 cents per mile that Uber and Lyft is offering. And that ain't much at all. I mean, certainly factoring in prices of goods and services, gasoline, insurance costs, everything's went up, and drivers ain't getting shit for raises. 89 cents per mile. I don't understand how folks would even drive for that. I don't understand how you could even reliably turn a profit driving for 89 cents a mile, picking up trips that only pay $3 or something. I mean, because that happens quite frequently in rideshare, and the $5 minimum is gone. This is depressing. It's depressing. It isn't confirmed, but it's pretty clear that Uber and Lyft are winning this fight, and the city, the state, the city council is slowly bending and bowing to where Uber and Lyft want drivers. All under the guise, if you don't if we have to give a raise, we're going to leave. Now, there's a host of states we've talked about before that Uber and Lyft threatened the same shit and they didn't leave, but they seem to have the politicians in Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota bowing on their behalf. What really sucks about this is it would have had nationwide, if not global, implications, because it shows that drivers can fight and win raises. What sucks in this case is the drivers did all they should have done. Fought with city legislators, state government, did everything they did everything they could to win the good fight. And once they won it, the damn government decided to side with Uber and Lyft. That's what's happening. Depressing video. Anyhow, what do we always ask? Smash that like button. Even though this ain't shit to like, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.